You're listening to The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Join the Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Welcome in, everybody. Good morning. It is another week kicking things off. Well, good afternoon, technically, but I'm sure for at least a few of you out there, good morning may be more appropriate. Welcome into the Sports Fix. J-Rocc with you as we kick off another week here. Feeling good, too. I know it's hard to do that. It is. Monday morning, I was sludging through it myself, getting things together, and I'm like, man, I'm not even going to lie. I said, man, good thing we got the show this morning because I got to get myself up and moving and going here on a Monday morning. So hopefully we can help each and every one of you guys out there do the same thing as we kick off another week here, another sports week. Man, rolling through, man. This week, no Triple Crown again. I know some disappointed people out there. No, hey, nothing against it. I know there was some people into it, but I guess there was definitely one disappointed person that there wasn't a Triple Crown. Man, the owner, Coburn, Steve Coburn, was his name. He was tripping slightly, just a little bit after the race the other day. I'll talk about that in a minute. Indians 2 out of 3 heading into the final game here against Texas. And you know what? Man, very just as easily could be 3 in a row here because they got to you. They got to you, Darvish, man. But let him off the hook. And when you get 4 off of you like that you got to win that one. But hey, regardless, they bounced back. They've taken the next 2. We're going to talk about the Indians weekend here. Speaking of bounce backs, Michael Brantley bouncing up, continuing to rise up in the All-Star votes. We're going to talk about all of that here today. Camps are going on this week. Some teams still in the voluntary mode. Browns, one of 7 teams who are breaking into their mandatory mini camps here this week. Final one for them before they head into training camp. John McMullen, usually with us on Mondays here from the Sports Network. John's actually at the Eagles OTAs right now up in Philly, so he's going to join us a little bit later on the back end of the week when we can talk more about what's going on this week with the Browns and their camp. So John McMullen not going to be with us here today, but that's okay. A ton more to talk about. Speaking of the NFL, we are going to talk a little bit about I saw it. I posted it on our social media. I don't know if you guys got a chance to check it out over the weekend. I don't know. It was a very beautiful weekend with a little bit of rain, but other than that, some good weather going on, so I wouldn't have been hanging out on social media. But if you happen to be, if you didn't have anything to do, or maybe you got stuck in that rain, you saw I posted a copy of an article. Usually these things don't get out there, but apparently somebody in Minnesota, in government perhaps, not too happy with the way things went down with the NFL, even though they ended up getting their hands on a Super Bowl coming up there for their new stadium. But apparently somebody wasn't too happy because they leaked some of the paperwork. Not some of the paperwork. The paperwork is like a big, giant document. I sorted through this over the weekend. It's pretty funny. The list of demands, and some of them are common sense. I mean, we've talked before about what it takes to get your city a Super Bowl as far as hotel rooms and certain access and restaurants and there has to be numbers to handle certain amounts of people. way more than that. Way more than that. This thing has turned into a, who can satisfy the royal wishes better? I'm telling you, a big, long list of demands the NFL made. We're going to talk a little bit about that, talk about the Browns as they head into camp. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. Dan's with us every Monday. He'll be here. A couple of OSU recruits coming into camp. We'll talk a little bit about that. You know what, too? We talked about the syntax a couple of weeks back when it was on the ballot. For those of you that know about that, whether you're in Cleveland or whether you're in other places, the syntax, one of the ways that cities now use to fund the stadium repairs and different things that they need, fill gaps where they tax alcohol and they tax cigarettes and all of that. Well, Ed Fitzgerald here at Cuyahoga County, he wants to institute a win tax on how to spend that sin tax. I want to talk to Dan Wismar a little bit about that. Oh, man, talking about taxes. How about maxes? Kyrie Irving, Cavaliers, rumored to be prepared to offer the Kyrie Irving, the max deal. Not the Kyrie Irving, a max deal, but prepared to offer him that. We'll talk a little bit about that, and there's a couple of different variations of what a max deal could be, and they're supposedly down to their final couple of candidates for the head coaches as well. LeBron, the Heat, bounce back. What a great game. Seriously, with about 3 minutes to play in that game last night, I texted a friend of mine and said, is this just not a great basketball game or what? But we'll talk about all of that, your calls, and so much more. So let's do it. Welcome in, my friends, to the Sports Fix. Let's kick this bad boy off. I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, with you guys for the next 2 hours. And not only with you, but I want you to join me. I like hearing my voice, but I love hearing your voice better, baby. So hit me up on the phone lines, because they give me the microphone and I turn it around and I give it back to you. Don't miss it. Catch it. It's an expensive microphone. 216-539-7555 is the number to call. So why don't you do just that? Pick up your phone. Give me a call. 216-539-7535 is the number to call if you can't get to the phones. A lot of you at work during the live broadcast, hit us up on our social media, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. Of course, always easy ways to stay in touch with the show. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix CLE. You can hit us up 24/7 on the email, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And don't forget the one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports, including those of you that are sitting there listening to the show live right now on thesportsfix.net, the home base, the mothership, thesportsfix.net. You can listen live. You can listen to the past replays. You can listen to anything you want. All of our stuff is tied in right there, and you get linked right into our social media widgets. You can post directly on our Facebook page. You can tweet at us right there while you're on the page. We've really made it a one-stop shop for you guys. So hit us up on thesportsfix.net. And hey, welcome in, you guys. Whether you're listening live on thesportsfix.net, whether you're listening on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio application worldwide, whether you're listening on Spreaker, or perhaps you're listening on Mixler. And by the way, hello to my Spreaker audience, which has expanded in the last few days a bit here, doing a little bit of advertising on the Spreaker platform here. I've decided to see if we can't capitalize on the kind of the popularity and the well-placed ads that they do for us already there on the show. So and so far I like the results I see. So welcome in all of you new perhaps who may be joining us for the first time today live on Spreaker, and of course everybody on Mixler as well in the Mixler chat room. And shout outs to everybody listening 24/7, baby, on the world's largest internet radio provider, iHeartRadio, on Stitcher and SoundCloud and Spreaker and all of those platforms, on iTunes, all the podcast platforms. Welcome in each and every one of you guys to the Sports Fix, and let's roll. Let's do what we do here, fellas, and kicking things off. Yeah, I mentioned a little bit there, joking around. California Chrome falls short over the weekend. Tragically, there will be no Triple Crown winner yet again. And what I thought was comical was my man afterwards, the owner of California Chrome, went to town, man, and he didn't just get mad after the race. He took some time to think about it, and then he got more angry, and he went off again, and then he took some time to think about it, and he went off again. He went off for about a day and a half straight. very upset at what happened. Basically, the gist of his complaint, I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it. Of course, Tunnelist ended up winning the Belmont Stakes, but the basic gist was that of all the horses in the race, only 3 had also raced in the previous 2, the Preakness and the Kentucky Derby, and his basic complaint was that you should race in all 3. People shouldn't be able to save their horse for the 3rd leg of the Triple Crown, and it was an unfair advantage, discounting the fact that regardless if that's true or not, which his argument made a little bit of sense, except for the fact that that's the way it's been forever. So it's not like it was a new set of rules that was holding his horse back from everybody else there. So anyways, but yesterday continued to be upset, but finally he did come out, and they got him on Good Morning America, and he came out and apologized to everybody, and that. But I was like, man, he got fired up, man. He was ready to go. He was ready to go for a couple of days, man, and. But so no Triple Crown winner there for those of you that were into that. It was a busy sports weekend here this weekend. Man, I'm gonna save it for Doug Plagans when he joins us here in the next couple of days. But man, how about them Kings, man? The Stanley Cup. That's been a hell of a series there so far. We'll talk to Doug Plagans a little bit later in the week more about it. But man, I told you something about them Kings there, man. But a big weekend all the way around, and the Indians as well. It started on Friday night, and I'll start right there with kind of what I was teasing at the beginning when I went through my little intro there. Man, you got, okay, I'm happy that they took 2 out of 3, but man, you should have took all 3, because I'll tell you, they got to you. We talked about how Yu Darvish was kind of like the beacon there in that starting rotation, and then everything else was shaky, and I think we saw some of that later on this weekend, but they even got to you. Nobody's hit him as much as the Indians did. It was the most amount of hits that he has given up all season long the other day, and the Tribe had him. After Texas jumped out to that 4-0 lead, the Indians had got back on him, and then we were getting locked in here, and just at that point, Trevor Bauer had gotten rolled in. I think he had got 12 out of 15, 13 out of 15 in a row, 13 of the last 15, yeah, right before he came out. But unfortunately, they give up the home run, give up the insurance run in the 8th inning, and the Tribe drops a tough one there. And I just was, looking back now, obviously I look at it a little bit differently today because they won the next 2. But man, Friday night coming out of that game, I was like, man, you can't let that get away when you get to somebody that good like that. And whether he was able to hang on, by the way, long enough. It's like the cockroach when the lights, they scatter, but he stays alive. Even in a nuclear holocaust, he's back. He's alive. Yu Darvish survived and got the victory there, even so. And so, but I was sitting there going, man, you can't drop those when you do what you got to do there. But hey, you know what? I was really fired up to see how they bounced back. I said, well, man, let's hope that, because, you snapped the winning streak Friday night. You're kind of like, man, damn, I hope this doesn't portend into a worse weekend here. Let's not have this be the weekend that Texas starts to feel better about itself while we're down there, because we're trying to get our whole road thing going. And sure enough, they bounced right back, and a really good performance. Josh Tomlin came out there. As usual, he held the other team to his usual 2 to 3 runs, gave you his typical quality start and ability to win the game, which he does almost every time out there, and the Indians did just that. It was a good game for the first 6.5 innings or so. Texas was right there, but the Indians used that big 4-run 7th inning and pulled ahead in that game 8-3. They took over, and you know what? Another key, by the way, we talked about this the other day. They continue to play relatively clean baseball, and that's going to be the key all season long. I truly believe if the Indians had not been, bad news bearing it up all around the field with these errors all season, they would be already, I think, well ahead of the 8 ball. More than the hitting, the pitching, any of that. I'm telling you. Because they should have still won some of these games with hitting problems, with pitching problems, and all of that. But you're beginning to see things warm up. Yan Gomes, good to see him hit a home run the other day. And on the same day, by the way, that the Indians draft his brother Juan Gomes. So another member of the Gomes family now coming into the Indians organization. But I thought that was kind of ironic. On the same day that his brother gets drafted by the Tribe, Yanni goes Yanimal and hits the 3-run home run there. Anyways, Indians take care of business 8-3, and they beat Texas. Josh Tomlin looked good, and Carlos Santana as well. Hey, he was basically 4 for 4. He was 2 walks, 2 for 2, got on base all 4 times. That's what I meant by that. And you got to like what you saw coming off the disabled list. And I mean, he's one that I know. I'm not this way on Swisher. I'm not sold that Nick Swisher is going to turn things around, but I am sold that Carlos Santana is going to turn things around. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind when I say that. I really do, guys. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but we've seen him struggle before. And the fact that he continues, even during his real low point here during the season, he was still continuing to find ways to draw walks, which was kind of startling to me that other teams would keep walking him. You know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't hitting, and yet he was still drawing walks. And I'm like, what, man, guys are nibbling around him. I would have been going after him. I'm not going to complain because it's to our benefit, you know, but I do believe that he's going to get himself warmed up and get himself going. I have no doubt in my mind. Asdrubal Cabrera doing the same thing right now, too. He's starting to like what he's doing. I said it the other day. I think he's going to have a second half. I think Asdrubal is, if it's not even for us, if it's not for the selfless reasons that you would hope it would be, then for selfish reasons because of what he's got on the horizon. I expect him to get himself going here. I think he's going to be big, too. And we saw that. Indians made it 8 of 9 yesterday, 3-2 win. Justin Masterson gave you just enough to go out there. It was nearly 6 innings, and you know, following up what he did before, you know, you follow up with Boston and you come up with that and beginning to see maybe some ray of hope, some ray of light at the end of the tunnel there. The Justin Masterson is beginning to get things figured out for himself there. Asdrubal, Ryan Rayburn, David Murphy provided the offense for the Indians. That bullpen, Zaczynski and Shaw and Allen continue to come through. Cody Allen, I'm telling you, 6 saves now, and I don't know that if I was, and I don't think they are. I know there's a lot of fans that have and media that have speculated when's Terry Francona going to try to make the switch? When's he going to take a shot at putting Axford back in there? But I don't know if that happens right now. Allen was somebody that wasn't really even a part of that conversation and has put himself there. And man, I'm telling you, he's somebody that I liked for the spot to begin with. If we had come into the season without signing Axford, he's somebody that we all talked about. So I don't think I'm not, anyways, if I'm Francona, I'm not in any rush to make any moves there. But regardless, he locks it up. He's got 6 saves now. And, hey, look at that, too. That'll show you that start that Axford had there, too, man. He still leads the team in saves, you know. He's been out of the job for, over a month now. But anyways, Indians, it adds up to a victory. You've now taken 2 out of 3. They got the wraparound here today. Speaking of wraparound, let's take the break. Let's get this break out of the way so I can come back and keep talking some Tribe here. The Indians have a game left in this series, but a good start to the weekend here. I want to hear from you guys, too. Pick up the phone, Tribe fans, and give me a call. That's right. We didn't start the show talking about Johnny football or training camp or the Browns. No, we started this bad boy talking Indians baseball, baby, as you should in the middle of the month of June. So pick up the phone and talk it with me. 216-539-7535. A ton more still to come. We'll talk about it. We'll look ahead to tonight's finale here with Texas before you've got Baltimore and Boston on deck. Michael Brantley climbing up the all-star votes, and I'm going to talk because I put it on our social media, and some people were like, yeah, man, I'm with you. And some people say, oh, man, you're crazy. Lonnie Chisenhall. I'm telling you, he's a few days away from getting himself at the top of the leaderboards for hitting. And I mean, I don't just mean at the top. I mean in the American League. Once he gets enough at-bats here in the next week, 10 days or whatever to qualify, he will be leading by 30 points in the American League in the hitting category and will be leading the entire major leagues as well. Don't you think if he keeps that going, then we should be talking about Lonnie Chisenhall and some all-star votes as well. But we're going to talk, because somebody told me I was absolutely crazy this morning. I'll talk about all of that, your takes, and so much more when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to The Sports Fix.
School is out and it's sort of a buzz. But back then I didn't really know what it was. But now I see what happened is the way that people respond to summer madness. The weather is hot and girls are...
This is the Sports Fix.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Hey, call me Mr. Pig! Ah!
call you whatever you like, as long as we can call you a fan of the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Indians fans, GV Art and Design has unleashed their new baseball collection. This summer, you've got to have one of the hottest baseball shirts available. Indians themes, GV Art has them covered from top to bottom. Chief Wahoo, keep the Chief, one of the hottest sellers going today. GV Artwork, knocking it out of the park, teaming up with Michael Brantley to create a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt, bringing back an old classic. GV Artwork, bringing out the wild thing. Give them the heater design. The Cleveland That I Glove collection continues to grow. New designs for women and so much more. GVArtwork.com, bringing it full force to the plate for baseball season this year. Whether you check them out online, GVArtwork.com, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase. Whether you go to their store in Lakewood, check them out at the Cleveland Indians team shops around Progressive Field and so much more. GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
I've been a pro wrestler my whole life, so championship belts have always kind of been a way of life to me. But did you know title belts are quickly becoming the fastest rising and the most popular new way for people to celebrate all kinds of things you never would have thought of before? We use it for our fantasy football league. It's a really cool conversation piece. Office pools, employee of the month, you name it. There's tons of different trophies that you used to buy plaques for. Well, I'm here to tell you about Pro-Am Championship belts, who have the highest quality championship belt with the lowest prices. Replace those old trophies with stock belts on hand that they can customize for as low as $30. Any occasion, celebrations, awards, championships, fantasy leagues, gifts, plus wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing. If you need championship belts, check them out. Pro-Am Championship Belts, ProAmBelts.com. Look them up on Facebook, Pro-Am Belts. Trust me, nothing says cool like doing the discount double check with a real championship belt. Just ask Aaron Rodgers. Now you too can have one thanks to Pro-Am Championship Belts.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck, home of the low price tire guarantee. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Indian fever, it's catching fire with everyone.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live here on the sportsfix.net, on TuneIn and its radio application worldwide, on Spreaker and Mixler, and on digital delay across all those podcast platforms, plus the world's largest internet radio provider, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, etc., so on and so forth. J-Rocc back with you guys, rolling into the show. Phone lines are open, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. Never fails, too. The minute I get my next guest on the phone, then, of course, the phones will ring like crazy. And then people will say, oh, you don't take my phone calls, J-Rocc. So 216-539-7535. I'm having some fun, feeling good. And, of course, these Indians are a big reason for it. As I said, realistically, I mean, they they could have taken this. They could have swept the weekend here with Texas. Either way, you came out of it feeling good as you sit on the verge here. Game 4 of this wraparound series is tonight. 8:05 is the first pitch. TJ House, and maybe his last major league start here for a while. Although Terry Francona said he pitched himself into our plans this season, no matter what happens specifically here, because obviously Zach McAllister, he's got another start. Now, here's the thing. He got kind of hit around a little bit pitching for Lake County the other day. Now, he's had some rain and some rainouts on his stuff, but he was told in this next one, we're not just looking for you to pitch. We want you to perform. We want you to come out here and pitch well and show us that you're ready to come back to the major league rotation. So a big rehab start on the horizon for McAllister, and a big start here for TJ House, because that's going to play as well into when you start monkeying around. When a team gets hot, sometimes you don't mess with a hot hand. That's the old expression. And so TJ House, either way, looks to take the mound and continue. He's pitched well, even though, he doesn't have the big statistical numbers to show you. He's done a good job in the position that he's been in. He takes on Nick Martinez here tonight as the Tribe wraps up that series with Texas. And before we went to the break, you guys, and by the way, you can also keep talking to us on Facebook, The Sports Fix on Facebook, and Twitter at The Sports Fix CLE. And we were talking about the All-Star votes. And before I talk about my man Lonnie Chisenhall, let's talk about Michael Brantley. Michael Brantley has moved up now to 7th in the outfielders here, as there's been a little bit of shifting around. Mike Trout was leading the entire American League last time we talked about the All-Star votes. Jose Bautista has taken over as the leading vote getter here heading into the game now. A little bit of changes at the top, but as far as Michael Brantley, he's now moved into 7th place. Remember, he wasn't even in the top 15 when the first set of numbers came out here. So it'll be very interesting to see what he's able to do. Man, there's some close ones everywhere, man. You look at Derek Jeter and Alexi Ramirez. Those two are separated at shortstop by, what is that? I'm doing quick math in my head. It's a very small amount, 150,000 votes or something like that. It's definitely like 10% of the total right there between each of them. So it's a very close one there. But for as far as Michael Brantley goes, and you got to think that as people continue to have the spotlight focused on Michael Brantley, and I'm talking nationally, I'm talking fans everywhere, as the home attendance rises a bit, I mean, even 5, 6, 7,000 a game more, which is what you're going to kind of see here over the summer. Even that's going to make a difference. I was asking, remember we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I said, how much really in today's era does the paper ballot differ, or number-wise, from the electronic? Because you got to think, a huge percentage more nowadays is coming in electronically, and not necessarily true. 40 million ballots is what Major League Baseball says that they have printed for distribution throughout all of the ballparks here. So, I mean, there's a big percentage of that. And because the attendance has been lower in Cleveland, that's going to hurt a little bit as well, too, there. Although I was right, in a way, about the digital part, because they closed the paper ballots down, I believe it's a good week to 10 days before they stop the online voting. So there's a good exclusive period of online voting as well. So I'm sure if they... This is just me thinking out loud, but if we're talking 40,000 or 40 million paper ballots, then you got to think you've got to like 10 times. There might be 400 million online votes on the way that goes. But either way, I'm sure that had a part to do with it as well. So as more Indians fans hit Progressive Field in the next couple of weeks, then I expect to see Michael Brantley's numbers continue to go up. Right now, speaking of his numbers, not his votes, but among American League outfielders right now, Michael Brantley is 5th in batting average with his .298 average, 3rd in RBI, 42, 4th in OPS at an 840 clip, and he is tied for 4th in extra base hits as well. So clearly performing higher than the stats. But I mean, look, in a couple, 2 updates, he went from out of the top 15 into the top 10 and now to 7th place. So I expect to see him continue to rise. But I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys here, and it's what I was talking about before the break. Lonnie Chisenhall, Lonnie Baseball, my man. Listen, I tweeted out yesterday, in 90 days, Lonnie Chisenhall has gone from afterthought to all-star. And some people said I was insane for using that word. And I understand that there's still work to be done for Lonnie to realistically be in this discussion. Although right now we know where he sits with his batting average. And right now he's at a 365 average. He's 20 plate appearances shy of being able to be number one on the list. He's worked his way up. It's because of the part timing at the beginning of the season, but he's 20 plate appearances shy of qualifying for the list. Once he qualifies for the list, he would lead all of baseball right now with a 365 average, and he would lead the American League, as I said, by 31 percentage points. I'm telling you, it's an amazing level. And I actually saw some math that said if he plays every game between now and the All-Star game, there's 32 games left between today and the All-Star game. If he played and he got what he's averaging now, his at-bats, as far as just the plate appearances, if he got that between now and the All-Star game, he would qualify. He would no longer be under the list, and he would get himself up there. So I'm saying we're talking 30 games. If he's able to maintain even 75% of the pace that he has been at right now for the next 30 games, there's no way you can tell me that he's not in the discussion for an all-star vote, man. And not just a vote, but for a spot. I mean, look at what he's done, too. This was the man without a home to start the season. I mean, Lonnie Chisenhall, he was kicked out of third base. They converted a catcher. And by the way, hats off to Carlos Santana. I will never take that away for what they did. But they converted a catcher and allowed that experiment to happen, in part because Lonnie Chisenhall had not done anything with the multiple chances he was given to lock down third base and say, hey, just like we say, Kipnis over there at second. That's what Chisenhall was given the opportunity to do that and make third base his. He left that door open. So bam, now that's why I said afterthought to all-star, because look at what happened. And you look at it, he's played third base when he's had to. He's played DH when there was no position for him. Now he's over there playing first base, and I'll go so far as to say the defense has shored up in a way with that move. Not just that move, but we've talked about how recently they got the defense going. But regardless, look at the difference. Last year, let's start there. Last year, Lonnie Chisenhall hit 225 for the season. And against left-handers, it was abysmal. It was ones across the board. 111. He was 4 for 36, and he was just a mess. This year, Lonnie Chisenhall is 356 overall against lefties, 542. I mean, obviously, it's a small sample size, 13 for 24 against left-handers. But regardless, I mean, just for him to have done that, to be playing position, to really, I got to tell you, I mean, what did Mike Brandenberry say? We were talking a couple weeks ago. He said, man, a few weeks back, a trade involving Lonnie Chisenhall was like, hey, man, what are the Indians waiting for? Why haven't they made that move yet? Now, it's like, oh, no, don't touch Lonnie baseball. Whoa, let's leave him go. And rightfully so. I don't know what caused this, and I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth, as the old expression goes here. But you look at the Indians, you look at the run that they've had, Lonnie Chisenhall has been a big part of it. He's been a part of it defensively. He's been a part of it offensively. He's been a part of it in every single way. He's contributed on the base paths, I mean, with the glove, with the bat. And so my point, and I see some of you guys in the chat room agreeing with me there, I think there's no way that if he keeps this up for the next 3 or 4 weeks, that he is not in this discussion of realistically being an all-star, man. And then I think you've got to at least be talking about, I think right now as it stands, we've already mentioned this before, Corey Kluber to me, Michael Brantley, those two should be, write them down, chalk them in, send them to the All-Star game now. I think those are foregone. But I think that Lonnie Chisenhall, and I said the same for Michael Bourne, if he's able to have, and it's the same thing here, if he's able to have another 3 or 4 weeks. Because, I mean, hey, it's one thing to do it through June. When you get through the month of June, you start heading into July, you start hearing fireworks, and you're still hitting 350, then we got something to talk about. So that was another one. But I think here he puts himself in that conversation, deservedly so. Alan Carter on Facebook told me I was nuts, told me to come back to reality when I mentioned the word Lonnie Chisenhall and All-Star. But, man, you can give me the split, and I'll look it up for you right now, and I'll read you his line. Whatever you want to know, he's coming through in any situation. So I think, yes, I think that if he continues this right here, he definitely keeps that conversation going. And that's why I said it starts to get, from a sports talk perspective, more fun. From a managerial perspective, much less fun for Terry Francona. Some of these decisions when, like Swisher here, when you get these guys coming off and you got to start making moves, because part of you says, what do we say? Man, when things are going good, you don't necessarily you don't mess with it. And so I think there's going to be some decisions definitely to be made. You got McAllister, you got Swisher here. I mean, Santana was a part of that too, but so far so good. You like what you see from him. And there's a question too, and I think they're going to, but Terry Francona talks about how important, and he's right, we said this in the spring, how important it is, the difference between Carlos Santana being a member of the team and being your backup catcher, because that really does free you up and free up a position and free up an opportunity for other things, for that bench flexibility that we talk about a lot that's so important for these guys. But seeing as how he got knocked in the head doing the catcher bit, and you want to make sure, and at least this is the Indians and what they're saying, is you want to make sure that physically it's going to work out. It's not going to cause you more harm than good, because that's also going to play a part in that last roster spot and which way it goes, because there's a big difference if you got to keep Contreras and if you're able to trust that Santana is going to do your backup catching, So we'll keep talking about this, you guys. Dan Wismar is going to join us just about 20 minutes from now or so. We'll talk some Indians with him as well. Take your calls and more. We're going to take a break. We're going to get you some news here during this break. When we come back, I want to talk a little football, but I'm not going to talk about Browns really or any of that specifically, as much as I teased it at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you guys saw, but the NFL, with their bargaining with the cities and the bidding process to get an NFL, a lot of people said, hey, how do you get a Super Bowl to Cleveland? Just put a dome on the stadium. No, it's a lot more to it than that. But we'll talk about that. The NFL wants the Feast of Kings, baby. That's for sure. We'll talk a little bit about that. What does the NFL want to bring a Super Bowl to town in 2014? And we will talk a little bit about Browns camp. Dan Wismar on the horizon, talking some OSU recruiting news. Ed Fitzgerald wants to turn the syntax into a win tax. I'll tell you what, I wish we could take that and do it to politicians instead of sports teams. Kyrie Irving, max deal in the air. I don't know. We'll talk about all of this, your takes, and so much more as the Sports Fix rolls on, baby.
Just like George Clinton, SKP is down to catch a body, put on knee deep. We'll turn out your party. You get no love, and I thought you knew it. Fool, you know how we do it.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Before we go to the break, guys, I want to talk to you just a second about our friends at GV Art and Design. Baseball's here once again. Cleveland, of course, excited, and GV Artwork teaming up with the Indians, and they're both going to knock it out of the park this season. And listen to some of the new designs they've got for Cleveland baseball fans everywhere. They've dug out an old classic, and they're bringing the heat with the new Wild Thing, Give 'em the Heater Ricky design. GV Artwork is teaming up with Cleveland fan favorite Michael Brantley and created a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt. Plus, don't forget, they've got the Cleveland That I Glove collection, new tribal and Cleveland That I Love designs for women, and so much more. You can get GV Artwork designs on the website, gvartwork.com. And don't forget to use the sales code FIX10, that's FIX10, and you'll save 10% on your purchase. Or you can check out their new store in Lakewood on Detroit Avenue. Check them out in the Indians team shops and so much more. Cleveland That we all love, GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 Bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD, the excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials. Fight fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens. And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger. Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious. What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
Good morning, I'm Doug Brown. California Chrome co-owner Steve Coburn apologizes today for his critical comments about the Triple Crown Series after Tonalist won the Belmont Stakes.
Very ashamed of myself. Very ashamed. I need to apologize for a lot of people. First of all, I need to apologize to the winners. They ran a beautiful race. Their horse won the race. They deserve that. I did not mean to take anything away from them.
Steve Coburn on ABC's Good Morning America today. LeBron James with 35 points and 10 rebounds. Chris Bosh with 2 crucial plays down the stretch. The Miami Heat are all even in the NBA Finals with a 98-96 win in Game 2. Game 3 tomorrow night on ABC and here on ESPN Radio. The Cleveland Plain Dealer reports the Cavaliers plan to offer point guard Kyrie Irving a 5-year max contract for about $90 million. That offer can't be made officially until July 1st. If Irving doesn't sign, he could be a free agent next summer.
Father's Day is here, and Dick's has the equipment to give Dad that perfect day. Check out amazing deals throughout the store, or let him choose his own gift with a Dick's gift card. Use your scorecard and get 3% back on all purchases. Every season starts at Dick's.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Well, we're moving on up to the side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. We're moving on up to the side. We finally got a piece of the pie. Fish don't fry in the kitchen.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live here on sportsfix.net. And yes, even on the Sports Fix, yes, fish don't fry in the kitchen. Beans don't burn on the grill. Welcome in to this, but we are moving on up to the east side, baby. J-Rocc back with you. Sports Fix rolls on. Tell you who's moving on up, some former NCAA players. Let me tell you, I was actually going to talk a little bit later on today and even more later on in the week. Getting away from where this segment was going to go because this just came in through the break here, you guys. But I'll tell you what, I was going to talk about the Ed O'Bannon story because his lawsuit filed or begins today, the actual hearing of it with the suit about using the players on television and in video games and all of that. And he actually has one of his people that's testifying is somebody from EA Sports who said that all along EA Sports was willing to pay the players, but the NCAA said it was against the rules, so they didn't have to. But regardless, that's not where I'm going. Just got word of a $20 million settlement. The NCAA and Electronic Sports, EA Sports, the group that put together, obviously they do the Madden game, they do the NCAA football games that no longer exist. That game was wiped out because of this, because there was no way that they could make the argument that they weren't actually the same players that you see playing on the field, because they basically were. I mean, you're using the University of whatever, Oregon, Ohio State, whatever it is, those players, the quarterback is the quarterback. It's Braxton Miller, regardless of what you name him or if you just give him a jersey number. But anyways, that thing has been settled now as this $20 million agreement case. This case separate, although the two kind of hinge on each other because each one's going to use parts of whatever they get successfully to help further their own case. But that case now being settled, and a large group of former Division I men's basketball and football players are going to split this $20 million settlement here. So very interesting there. I'm going to talk more about that. Matter of fact, I'm just going to push that whole thing off till tomorrow because I want to get all of my ducks in a row with that. But man, we just continue to break down these amateur barriers, and this it's going to be just another professional. I mean, the NCAA is just going to become another professional sports league almost. They just become the minor league of professional sports or something. But anyways, we'll talk about all of this. That is groundbreaking, though. $20 million settlement to players who were featured on those video games. And that is separate, as I said, from Ed O'Bannon's lawsuit, which you may have seen in the news here today, because the testimony begins in that thing too. And that one's groundbreaking too, because it's all about television and everything. It's about the players actually being paid for being seen on TV. A lot of things at stake in that. So we're going to talk more about that, and I'll even I'm going to talk to Dan Wismar maybe a little bit later too, but we'll carry on with that. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. J-Rocc back with you. That actually just came across my way while I was in the break there, and I said, hey man, let me talk about this here, but still very limited details on that $20 million settlement between EA Sports and the former NCAA basketball and football players. $20 million going to them to settle that lawsuit there. Welcome back in. J-Rocc with you. And speaking of money and money-related football and all of that, I want to talk about something a little funny here. It's not, too. It's sad because this is legit. What I'm going to tell you, it sounds like, oh, yeah, okay, it's a little over-exaggerated, but the NFL just finished their bidding process for the last rounds of awarding Super Bowls. They do it a couple of years in advance, and they just awarded a new stadium in Minneapolis, the 2018 Super Bowl. And hey, I'm going to preface this conversation by saying these things bring in tens, if not hundreds of thousands of visitors to your town during a small period of time, and they bring in millions, tens of millions of dollars of economic impact to an area. So I will give them that before I even start picking this thing apart. But check this out. Over the weekend, it was released 153 pages long of the NFL's bidding requirements to even make a bid on the Super Bowl. Now, these are not allowed to be released, but obviously, and I think what I said earlier is I think somebody in the Minnesota, whatever you want to talk government, you want to talk about lobbyists, whatever, somebody was not happy with this process and these things, so they leaked this document over the weekend, and it's now kind of gotten out all over the place. It's starting to hit the news over the last couple of days. This 153-page document that the NFL presents to every host bidder on what it's going to take to get the Super Bowl into your town. And you may think that it's, the things you hear about all the time, hotel rooms and parking spaces and stuff like that. But there's way more than that. I'm just looking through some of this. Government guarantees. There's a whole section of 6 pages on government guarantees. The local police have to provide police task forces at no cost, not only for the security purposes of the event, but they want specific anti-counterfeit teams whose whole job it is to look for fake tickets, fake merchandise, and for people selling those things around the stadium. Now, they want these task forces provided by the local police at no cost to the NFL or to anything involving them at all. Let's see. They need high-level management. They need government available. They need the governor or the mayor. They need the city council. They need all of these things on hand and available at the local level to help any of these things that happen, right? Like, they don't want to have to call somebody and wait on somebody to call somebody. They want to call the mayor and be like, look, we're having trouble here at the airport. Fix this now. They wanted specifically to be able to work on those needing special services, which means those arriving on team charters and private planes. They also asked that the government licensing fees be waived for up to 450 courtesy vehicles, cars, and buses. Let's see. Let's continue on through here. They need the city to create a clean zone which covers a 1-mile radius around the football stadium and a 6-block radius from the NFL headquarters hotel. Now, by clean zone, that doesn't mean pick up the trash. If you're thinking clean, that's not what it means. It means the temporary suspension of all active permits, which means the hot dog vendors that make their living on the corners, vendors, certain parking, the people that have the certain parking permits, all of that during the several-week period here, those become nil. So you no longer can do any within a 1-mile radius of the stadium or a 6-block radius of the hotel. So all of your permits, anything, if you work there, any of the street peddlers, vendors, any of that, their permits are no good during the time the NFL's there. Dude, we just got started on this thing. The NFL asks for at least a minimum of 20 free billboards in areas selected by the NFL to be made available. They were also asked to pay all travel and expenses for a Get Familiar trip for 180 people to come out in advance and do their scouting in advance of the Super Bowl. So basically, the NFL wants to take a group of 180 people to the city. In this case, it was Minneapolis, to be paid, the whole thing paid for by the city, so they can check out your city and get their plans made or whatever. They don't even want to pay to do the prep work. They want you to pay for that too. Check this out though. It goes way more. The NFL requires you to place logos of the NFL, of the Super Bowl, of the teams. We know, you know what the field looks like when you play the game. You've got to have the special paint and this whatever. Well, if for some reason you have to use a different type of turf in your stadium, if it doesn't work or if it's not the right type for the logos to be applied correctly, you have to pay for it. The league cannot be charged for any turf changes that need to be done. Your team has to foot the bill for that. So you may have to buy a specific type of turf for the Super Bowl and foot the cost of that if you're the football team that is the host team of this Super Bowl. Let's see. Also, this is just a funny one here. Hotels where the teams are going to stay, whatever teams they are for the Super Bowl, they're obligated to purchase and televise the NFL Network for a minimum of 1 year before the Super Bowl at no cost to the league, just to make sure, because the NFL doesn't have enough TV coverage. Maybe people at the hotel don't know that the Super Bowl is coming in a year. So I guess that's what that one's from. They also, now this one makes sense. If your cell phone towers are not strong enough to support the level needed for this, then at no cost to the league, you have to replace your cell towers. You have to rebuild and erect new cell towers, whatever it takes to reach the NFL's technical specifications. Now, that part of it I don't have a problem with, because I think that goes with hotel rooms and parking. Those are logistics that come with wanting to host the Super Bowl. I'm not going to just sit here and pile on everything here. I mean, that's logistics. You do got to have the cell coverage for the Wi-Fi and for all of that different stuff. So, but again, no cost to the league. The cost bared on the city and on the group. Inside the stadium for the Super Bowl, the league has to be able to install, at your dime, by the way, they have to be able to install their NFL preferred credit and debit card systems, including ATM machines, and remove your ATM machines if they're not the NFL's preferred payment services. Now, I'm guessing that if you're an NFL team, you probably already have the right ATMs in your building. I highly doubt that there's an NFL team stadium that has a non-preferred ATM. You know, like I'm guessing if MasterCard or Visa's the official card of the NFL, I'm pretty sure they don't have American Express. So I don't think that one's a problem. But if it was a problem, you would have to give them permission to jack all your ATM machines out of your stadium and replace them with their preferred specified ATM machines as well. This one's funny. You have to provide at least 2 top quality bowling venues. Did somebody call Andrew Bynum into town? 2 top quality bowling venues, no cost to the league. The best ones in the town have to be reserved at no cost to the league so that they can put on their Super Bowl Celebrity Bowling Classic. Also, along those lines, the 3 finest rated golf courses in the general area also have to have the same thing. They have to be reserved and they have to be set aside free of charge to the NFL to host all of the NFL golf tournaments. And the NFL also holds the right to reschedule due to weather and hold it anytime within the 1-year lead-up period to the Super Bowl or whatever. So they actually have the leeway on when they're going to use that. But yeah, you have to provide the 2 best bowling alleys and the 3 best golf courses in the area free of charge to the NFL to provide those. Now, it gets good, too. You also have to advertise for the Super Bowl. The league has asked for the local media to provide significant advertising and promotional time for the NFL Experience event the month leading up to the big game. Among the requirements, at least 20 pages of color-free space leading in all of the leading daily newspapers to promote the game. Now, it's an aggregate total, which means each newspaper could give you 2 pages if you've got 10 different newspapers. But regardless, they get 20 full-page color pages of free space in the top newspapers to promote the game. They also get at least 4 weeks of free promotion on at least the top 6 radio stations in town, and including at least 250 live or pre-recorded ads free of charge for all of that for the NFL. And it goes on. There's so much more to this. There's more and more and more, and the only guarantee on the other end that the NFL makes is what I said at the beginning. They guarantee that more than 100,000 visitors will enter your community and result in hundreds of millions of dollars in economic activity into your area. And I'm telling you, you got to read the thing, man. It's amazing. It's 150 plus pages long of the demands that these guys make. And, just amazing to think of the level and look what they charge for the 30-second ads on the Super Bowl, and they're getting all of this. And here's the best part: is it's a bidding process. So, bro, these are what the NFL's throwing out there. They're just going, hey, we're just going to throw these out here. You guys mill that amongst yourself. That's not the minimum, because if San Francisco wants the Super Bowl and Minneapolis wants the Super Bowl and Florida wants the Super Bowl, all of a sudden, everybody's stepping over top of each other to see how they can sweeten the pot for the NFL. So Lord only knows what it actually takes to get the NFL. Now, I will say that Minneapolis did come out and say that they did not give the NFL everything that they wanted, and that there were things that they did not agree to. but that's all, private and they won't discuss it. So who knows? And of course I expect them to say that, because you can't really come out and say, man, we gave them everything that they want. Here's some of it. One guy leaked, I guess apparently one of the things that they wanted that they could confirm was not given. The NFL wanted, at no cost, the exclusive right to sell for their vendors to sell Super Bowl merchandise at the local airport exclusively, and they wanted the ability, unrestricted, to put NFL kiosks selling merchandise at all the airports anywhere that they wanted. They could just walk through and they could go. But the Minneapolis people said that one for sure they could verify they did not give them, but they only didn't give it to them because when they submitted the bid, that wasn't requested, so it wasn't included as part of it. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of people in Minnesota. This is all where this came out of, and a lot of people upset by what we're talking about right here. And the Minneapolis City Council president said, and this is the sad truth, and this is the sad truth of it, is that critics need to face reality. And it's what I was just saying. It's a competition with every other city in America for a large convention-type group of visitors. And I mean, say what you will, and this is a lot of stuff that they're asking for, but guys, the economic impact, cities are not going to lose money on hosting the Super Bowl. I mean, yes, that's a lot, and it's kind of like, feed us grapes and fan us while we sit up on the throne. Yes, so you get mad from that perspective, but I mean, there is a ton of money to be made too. But man, that is tell you what, man, that's man, it just goes to show you, man, where priorities are at in this world, man, that this is what, man, and I just want the potholes on my street to be fixed. I just don't want to tear up my car driving down the road, and then cats are giving up the firstborn for a Super Bowl. But hey, it's the NFL's world, and cities are just a squirrel trying to get a nut, man. But like I said, those are the minimums. Those are what we're asking for. So Lord knows what it becomes when these cities start bidding against each other for that. And just crazy. I wanted to talk a little bit. Well, you know what? I'll carry this over, talk a little bit about the Browns, talk about the Indians. I'm going to carry this over, too, on the flip side, the win tax. I hinted at it a little bit earlier. Ed Fitzgerald, Cuyahoga County chairman here with Cuyahoga County executive here, has an idea for how he thinks they should spend the sin tax, and I think that maybe at the heart of it, it's a good idea. But come on, it's like, anyways. But we'll talk about it when we come back. And it's so funny that it came from a politician. If there's somebody whose entire income should be benefited or should be determined by what you actually do, it's politicians. So I thought it was kind of funny that he came up with the way to separate the money based on winning or losing the games. We'll talk to Dan Wismar about that. Buckeyes recruits, talk a little bit more about this Super Bowl stuff and so much more. Do not go anywhere. When we come back, the Sports Fix rolls on.
Won't you listen?
Oh, yes, indeed, it's fun time.
We here at the Sports Fix are very in-depth when we interview the sports stars.
Oh, I saw the whole thing, dude. First you were all like, whoa, and then we were like, whoa, and then you were like, whoa. What are you talking about? You got serious thrill issues, dude. Awesome.
Maybe not, but you should still listen.
As we head into this break, I just want to remind you the Sports Fix, proud to be partners with Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck, 5715 Canal Road, just under the 480 bridge in Valley View, Ohio. Bill Hershey and Bill Opalich, I tell you about them each and every day. They'll take care of you. Number one, huge Cleveland sports fans, but they're good people, hardworking people, trustworthy people. I don't just come on here, I tell you this all the time, I don't just come on here and talk about places and people that want to buy advertising on the show. I talk about people and products that I believe in, and Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is one of those places. Whether you've got a truck, car, van, commercial vehicle, big or small, it doesn't matter. They'll fix them all. They're the home of the low price tire guarantee. Find a matching set of tires cheaper anywhere else, and they'll match the price guaranteed, no questions asked, no matter what it is. Hey, and they understand in 2013 that there's transportation issues. People need to get to school, to work, to daycare. All those things need to get done, and the car needs to get fixed, and they'll figure out a way to make that happen for you. Check them out, quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck, and find out that life really is better in the Quick Lane.
Hey, Cleveland, this is Ed Doherty, voice of San Ignatius Wildcat football, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the ninth, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
At the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, it's basketball time at the Q.
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book.
Joe Day,
Fred McLeod, Hector Marinero.
Discussing the most intimate and sometimes controversial details of the largest moments in our town's sports history.
The Indians have won the divisional title.
A perfect game for Len Barker.
What a win for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Their first time in a playoff.
It's the first book written from the player's point of view, with the media that covered it and the fans that watched. Finally, the true stories are told. From a miracle in Richfield to the NBA Finals.
The Detroit Pistons have been booby-trapped.
From a perfect game to a World Series one pitch from victory. From a Wildcat high school dynasty to the golden days of the Browns, Barons, and Crunch, this book will change the way the entire sports nation looks at Cleveland.
Cleveland, you will have an October to remember.
Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com.
Away back, go!
Get your copy today.
Back in 1990, when I joined Herb in the booth, you could say that first game was when I became a lifelong Tribe fan. Something about Cleveland made us want to stay and call it our home, raise our family here. I can promise you one thing, home or on the road, I feel what you folks feel, what you feel every game. Cleveland fans are passionate and pretty vocal. I respect that. This is our team. This is our town. This is a Tribe town.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement. GVArtwork.com.
Hang on, Sloopy, Sloopy, hang on.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live here on the sportsfix.net. It's just been a while since I've heard a little hang on Sloopy here on the show, and I said, you know what, we gotta break that streak. Welcome back in. You're listening to the Sports Fix, rocking and rolling here on a Monday, getting your week started, getting you cooking, hopefully, the right way. J-Rocc, as I said, back with you. Going to go to the phone lines momentarily. My man Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan going to join us. A lot of things talking about, a lot of things we've been talking about here. I'm just going to kind of mix them all together with my man Dan, including some Buckeyes stuff. I know they've got some recruiting going on. We'll talk about all of that. You can keep the conversation going. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Always to stay in touch with the show, email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. And you know what? We got all these, we're talking about numbers and all the money and all this other stuff, but just saying, during the break, while we were getting things together for the next segment, I'm working on something for a little bit later on this week in the show, Thursday. I've got a very interesting guest coming on. You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago when the Browns signed Miles Austin. Remember he said he went and got permission from Bernie Kosar, and we talked a little bit about that. It got me thinking. So I went out and found somebody who specializes in numerology and the way it applies as well in sports. Now, I know some of you are going to go, whatever, but hear me out on this, man. It's I'm very interested to talk to Jesse because he talks about how astronumerology ties into sports, some of the specifics, why Joe Montana's number 16 combined with the name of the San Francisco 49ers in numerology predicted the success of them winning multiple Super Bowls. And how did Michael Jordan's number 23 give him the power to transform the sport of basketball? And why do some athletes change their names and their numbers to align with more successful numbers? Who knows where that conversation is going to go, but it'll be fun, and we're going to do it here Thursday on the show, so just letting you guys know about that. I'm going to go to the phone lines now because my number hasn't changed, and I'm going to go to Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan. Dan, how you doing this Monday afternoon?
I'm doing great, Jared. Good to be with you as usual.
Hey, good to have you here, my man. Feeling good. Another week in the books here. We're moving on through. It's summertime. How you feeling today, man?
I'm doing great. It was a good weekend for the Tribe, of course, and we're going to try to polish it off today and take this series from Texas. Even at 2-1 after 3 games, I'm still good with 5-5 on this road trip. I think I'd be happy with that. Maybe not totally satisfied, but content and pleased that they came back from the year's longest road trip, still at 500 baseball. So, you're tantalized a little bit with a 2-1 start and 4 games at Fenway looming ahead, and got to get this one today with Mr. House back on the mound. But you got to like what you saw, and you mentioned it earlier after dropping the first one that you really could have had and should have had. You left an awful lot of men on base and squandered a lot of scoring opportunities in that one where you got 4 runs off of Darvish, and that's hard enough to do. But you can't be too greedy and expect a clean sweep down there. But it's been an encouraging start so far. The way they've battled back and won these last 2 ball games.
Yes, you can when it's there. That's not being greedy, man. That's just taking what they give you. When you get Darvish, man, for 4, when you have his worst start of the season, you should have grabbed it. But that's okay. That's okay. And I'm just a hair above you. You said 5-5. I said I think they come back 6-4. That's what I'm looking for in this one. So hopefully, hey, they're on the right track, man. You take 2 out of 3 along the way, and that's how you get it done. So we'll see how they end it tonight. Did you hear the segment before you came on? Did you hear some of that stuff about the Super Bowl? Did you see the article, by the way, over the weekend?
I did, and I did see that. It really is quite remarkable. One of the things that, of course, the thing about the golf courses and the bowling alleys jumps out at you. They want, 3 top quality 18-hole golf courses, and of course, all greens fees and cart fees must be waived or otherwise provided at no cost. What if you're gonna tell the people at Canterbury or whatever that they can't charge any money? It's all pretty amazing. The one thing that kind of blew my mind too, and I guess you sort of assumed it, but 100% of the revenues from all ticket sales, including ticket sales for all suites, and the NFL must have exclusive access to all club seats. All your best seats in the house, all your loges, all your boxes, everything. We're going to take control of those so we can bring in our big wigs and put them up in style. It really is kind of amazing. What happens to the season ticket holders that that have bought those seats for years and years? I guess I'm a little bit used to that. My season tickets at the Indians games are right behind the walk with that halfway between home and third. And when the World Series came to town in 95 and 97, we were bounced out of those seats because Major League Baseball wanted to take them over because it was ideal for sitting some dignitaries or some players' relatives or some network TV cameras or whatever they wanted to put there. It was just too good a spot for you Indian season ticket holder, to be able to sit for the World Series for your team. We were bounced out to some auxiliary seating somewhere else. So it happens in every sport where when the bigwigs come to town, the lowly fan gets moved somewhere else.
I'm telling you, it's amazing. You talked about those tickets, but hey, the NFL gives back to the city. They may take your whole stadium, but then they turn to you, Mr. Haslam, and they say, for all of this, we give you back the ability to buy. Not give you, but you can buy back 750 game tickets. You know what I mean? Like, Wow, man, just
it's
amazing.
Probably the worst thing that you said in that whole list of things is that they move all the vendors out for a 1 mile radius. That seems particularly cruel and thoughtless and hard to take the hot dog vendor. And you and I see him on the corner of 9th and Lakeside, and we see him all up and down Lakeside Avenue, and we see him down in the Muni area, making their living selling sausages or bratwurst or whatever it is they're selling. And sorry, pal, you can't benefit from this event because we got to keep it clean and we got to have NFL approved vendors selling NFL approved items or whatever they're doing. That to me seems the most cold and heartless of all the moves that they require.
And they keep it open, too. Like, I wonder, I should, get my little compass out and figure out what a mile all the way around radius of Brown Stadium would be, just to get an idea for how much square footage there and how much actual city area would be encompassed. But they keep it open, with that. They don't specify. Basically, just we can suspend any permits, new ones, old ones, whatever we want. They kind of give you carte blanche, you know what I mean? And like you said, there's guys, they're not there on game day. For those of you not familiar with downtown Cleveland, there's people who that's their day-to-day. That's their 9 to 5. They take their cart to their area, and that's their spot. And, I remember back in the day, when I was a kid, taking trips to downtown was much more of a thing than it is now, and that was one of the things my grandmother and I would do, because malls were just kind of too noisy for her, so you could never get her to go to the mall, but she was always good to go downtown, go to Woolworths and whatever. So, and you go down, you would see the same people for years and years and years, yeah, exactly. And when you think about that, but no, man, we have the right for a infinite here amount of time to clear out whoever we want. And I thought the police thing was a little messed up too. I get the security aspect, of course, but to make a city set aside task forces free of charge, specifically to handle your counterfeiting problem and your problem with merchandise, that has nothing to do with us. If you want to have your NFL A team out there getting guys, that's fine. But why should the city have to pay a group of cops to be your security on counterfeit merchandise? You know what I mean? That's your specialty anyway. That's what you know.
Right.
We don't know that.
Yeah, and the cities are already struggling under tremendous costs when they bring in special events, because invariably it seems like it ends up being overtime or double time or holiday pay or whatever for these guys, and the security costs for events like that are enormous to start with, and now you want them to police counterfeit tickets and all kinds of other stuff. At least cooperate with what your league office is doing in that regard. It seems like like you say, it's a competition, and these cities are bidding against each other. The NFL knows they're the only game in town. The Super Bowl is once a year, and it's the big event, and they can pretty much do what they want. And this 153 pages is ample evidence of that.
I love how you got to fly the
group
out.
Do what they want, and they get what they want.
I love how you got to fly the 200 people out in advance and pay for their whole trip to plan their trip. You know what I mean? Their planning trip. You got to pay for the whole group to come in. It's just amazing. But one of the reasons I brought this up, besides the fact that I was amazed by it, is one of the things I hear the most is, the Browns screwed up. Should have put a dome on that damn thing so we could get a Super Bowl. I'm just going to show you here that there's way more than just popping a top on that stadium to get a Super Bowl. And there's way more than just building a few more hotels. As I've heard some people say, hey, man, build some hotels and get us a Super Bowl here in Cleveland. And that's great, because I think they showed now that they would venture into the right cold weather area, and even with a lid, but clearly you just look at some of these things they demand. I don't even know if the city of Cleveland, even if they could get the hotel rooms, I don't know that they could meet all of the demands that it would take to host a Super Bowl.
Well, I don't think right now that they could meet the demands even for hotel rooms. Certainly not downtown. You couldn't do it without going out, 480 out to Beechwood and south to Rockside and in all directions from downtown in order to meet the hotel requirements. The other stuff, if Cleveland had the political leadership to get it together and bid for a Super Bowl, and it's a moot point, like you say, without a covered stadium. By the way, the golf thing appears to be set up just so that in the event you are in Minneapolis and you can't play your golf event on the 1st of February, they reserve the right to get your best courses at any time during the 6 months before or after the Super Bowl, so they can have their golf event and their NFL Network bowling tournament or whatever else they want to have.
Yeah.
But it is from when they, I guess it wasn't the first cold weather site that came to Detroit at one time, and people pretty much said it was an unmitigated disaster because Super Bowl attendees don't want to sit in their hotel room or whatever. They want to be out and about. They want to have a party atmosphere. They want to be in New Orleans, or they want to be in Pasadena, or they want to be in a warm weather locale. They didn't go back to a cold weather climate for a long time after that Detroit Super Bowl. I think the next one was Indy, was it not, just a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what was it, Indy? And then, of course, they did the New York thing here, the outdoor, which was, a gimmick, kind of, a one-time thing.
Yeah, it was. To me, that was the NFL's gift to itself. Headquartered in New York, they wanted to, bring people in and have it in their own backyard. And I thought New York is a little bit of a special case because obviously it's the city, and but to me that was a little bit of NFL self-flattery and let's make it convenient for us.
I thought they were going to make Super Bowl 50, the one in New York, to be honest with you, the way it would have timed out. I thought maybe that would, but for that kind of the same reason that you just said, But, I mean, clearly, too, obviously, the Super Bowl is the dangling carrot that comes with build a new stadium for a lot of these cities. I mean, we see what happened with with Minnesota here. This is where this came from, was their bid on it, and a new stadium. And even New York, was a relatively new stadium, right? It was like a year or two old when they did that one, right? Isn't that the new stadium that they built there?
Yeah, that's right.
And
this is their shot to highlight and reward Minneapolis for building a new stadium for the Vikings.
You know what, Dan?
So many years of playing in that whole hellhole up there.
Dude, Dan, totally off the subject, but since you just kind of staggered there by mentioning Detroit, and I just saw in the chat room the word Silverdome, and it just reminded me, I don't know if you've seen this across the internet, and I will have to find it and post it on our social media, but a couple of weeks ago, I came across an article from somewhere in Detroit, somewhere outside Detroit, one of those newspapers or something, and it was about the Silverdome, which was, of course, a very grand building. It was huge at the time it was there. It hosted a lot of big events. I mean, the Pope was there. They did $100,000 or 100,000 people when he was there. I know WrestleMania was there back in the 80s. They did 90 or 80,000 people, whatever. Some of those Super Bowls, different things that they've done there. But man, it was just amazing to see it. It's gone to nothing. Like, I don't know. I think the city owns it and just doesn't maintain it or whatever. But they haven't demolished it yet. And somebody took a camera and went through it one day, and it's amazing because it's like the shell of what it was, and you can see it's this giant stadium, and it was what it was. But the whole ceiling has broken through those balloony things, whatever you want to call it. The fabric part of the ceiling have all come through. So, the floor of it's getting rotted out because it rains through and stuff. But it was kind of amazing to see the shell of what it's become, knowing it was this great, grand structure built. And part of it was to get a Super Bowl and to get these events and things like that, and then to see
right, and
just standing there.
The obvious comparison, Jerry, is that it's a metaphor for the city of Detroit writ large.
Have you seen?
You see these photos of areas of Detroit that are just unbelievable. Looks like a third world country.
I've been there.
And I guess maybe the Silverdome is the ultimate symbol of what's happened to the inner city overall. There are lots of areas around Detroit and in the suburbs and outlying areas that are perfectly fine, but the city itself has been so mismanaged that it really is like a third world country in a lot of areas. You see the photographs, they're just appalling.
Nothing against Detroit. I've been there. And one of the things that I worried about with our casinos was comparing it to Detroit, because I've been there And this is just a few years ago. So maybe things have changed. Don't get mad at me, people in Detroit. But I'm talking about you had the casinos, you had the Ford Theater, you had these things right in that one kind of lakefront area, kind of like what we have downtown. But, man, you go a couple of streets away on the streets, which is like where we had to park at the time we were there, and you're in another country. You're like, whoa. Like, and I'm telling you, it's exactly what you said. Not trying to make fun. I mean, but it's all nice and built up here for the casino, and then boom, you step off into a whole nother part of the city, just a few streets and blocks away. That's like you're in a whole nother country, and it is crazy. And I always worried, I'm like, man, if that can happen there, it could happen anywhere where, yeah, you got this one area that's propped up really nice and whatever, but around it, it's just decay and crumbles, and the city of Detroit is just a mess. And a lot of people point to that and talk about, man, can Cleveland end up like that? And in some ways, you know, it's not that far-fetched, especially when you look at how mismanaged, you know, the city's been for quite some time.
Exactly, and which leads us right back to your topic earlier about Ed Fitzgerald and
the wind tax.
About politicians badly managing large cities. Let's talk about Ed Fitzgerald. I mean, here's a political stunt if there ever was one. Am I right?
How did you know, Dan? How did you know that's where I was going? You're good, man. You're
good. Well, you listen to the early part of the show and you get ready. It's to me, first of all, the guy's running for governor, and that's almost all you have to say. Because this has to go down as in the Hall of Fame of campaign promises by politicians. You know, vote for me, and I'll make your sports teams win, Cleveland.
I know.
You know, effectively what he's saying. You know, it operates. The whole idea, Jerry, I think, is based on a couple of false premises, and one of those false premises is that your sports team owners aren't trying everything they can do to make their teams win now. Okay, that they're going to need this incentive. Second of all, the other premise is that $1 million or two is going to make a hill of beans to Dan Gilbert or Jimmy Haslam or the Dolans, when they're talking about 1,000 times that they're, dealing with in pocket change every year. So it just is kind of amazing to me that he thinks that this is going to be. Yeah, then the other galling thing is the idea that a city politician is going to give lectures to sports team owners about accountability.
I'm with you.
What are we talking about here? Talk about your pot calling your kettle black. I mean, and like you say, the biggest reaction from fans and from me and others is, don't you have enough to do?
I mean, Dan is hitting
running
it on
the county,
head.
Running the city, than to want to get your fingers into some dollars that you're then going to appoint a committee of fans, you say? What could go wrong there?
We'll get into that in a second. But you know what? And I'm not gonna touch politics right now. But it's just as far as Fitzgerald and just watching him from the outside. This is the same guy that will accuse other people of lack of transparency and then say, "But I'm not gonna let you look at my records. I'm not gonna let you check my time card and see what hours I'm working because it's not for my good safety of myself and my staff. But I'm gonna accuse everybody else." But so I get a kick out of watching this guy. I'm like, man, this is what happens when you get a relatively green politician trying to stick his toes in the waters with the sharks. You get a guy who just, this is not going to work out well for him. But what Dan and I are talking about, for those of you that are just hearing this, and I just heard about it last week, and I said, man, can't wait till Monday. I want to talk about this on the show, is the wind tax, is what Ed Fitzgerald is calling it. And Dan hit it on the head. He basically wants to put together a group of fans, a fan advisory council, and he wants to take 20% of the newly extended sin tax money, and he wants to hold it back. Now, he's like Dan said, he's not even talking about the whole thing. He doesn't even want to wield the big hammer. He just wants 20% of this money, and he wants him and his fan group to decide which teams are trying harder to win and decide how to split up that 20% based on winning and trying to win. And it's so political. Dan, you said it right. Hey, vote for me and I'm going to hold your sports teams accountable for winning and losing. We're going to make them win. And it's like, are you serious, man?
Yeah, who's going to, and the fans, a group of fans, carefully selected, no doubt, starting with Ed Fitzgerald's brother-in-law, is going to decide, which team, not only, if it's going to be about wins, Ed, well then forget about the team that's trying to win or being the smartest or doing the longest term planning, toward winning over the long haul. Because if it's going to be based on wins, then it's going to be based on W's and L's, baby, nothing else. Last year, of course, it would have to be Indians take the whole fun because they won 92 ball games, and the other two teams were sub 500. And if it's going to be based on wins, then hey, loaded. Doesn't matter if the Browns are, building for the future, if the Cavs are drafting the right people or spending the money in the right places to do something long term. It's just a whole idea that's flawed on its face, and it's a political stunt, and it's just it would be funny if it weren't so sad.
Well, that's the thing, is because here's the kicker. Last I checked, it is not in your best interest to allow your properties to deteriorate. And so considering the fact that you own that stadium over there by the lakefront, is it really going to make sense to withhold repairs from any of them? Like, at the end of the day, these teams leave. These facilities are being left behind. They're not going to pack these things up and take them with them. So you're almost cutting off your nose to spite your face anyway by going, hey, Jimmy Haslam, if you don't try to draft better this year, we're not going to repair our stadium that we own. You know what I mean? Right,
and it's something I saw in an article. There was a piece on Reason.com about this, Hit and Run, their blog there at Reason. And they were saying, I don't know what the numbers are like, but the number that they threw out was $2.7 million per year that was going to be this pool of money that was going to supposedly incentivize the Dolans and Haslams and Gilberts of the world to really, really try to win. This is what these guys make on popcorn on an average day, or parking or something. I'm not
Jimmy
sure
Haslam made more on trucker rebates.
Probably exaggerating, but it's ridiculous to think that amount of money is going to make these guys spend that on cigars. So I just think it's silly.
You're going to pay. I mean, I'm telling you, Jimmy Haslam made more on trucker rebates than this. He pays one pilot flying J lawyer more money than that just to try to keep him out of jail, man.
That's Dolan's utility infielder's salary.
Exactly.
It's just.
And we're talking about for all three teams. Split it. Split, 2.7? You split that in threes. If, let's say they all had an equal season, they're each splitting $900,000 apiece. Like, woo, that's going to really motivate any of them to make a move. You know what I mean? Like, less than $1 million. And that's if you're all trying to win, according to our fan advisory council, which is the best part, is that we're going to elect a group of fans and select. Would there be a ballot? Would you have to put like 20 fans on the ballot and then people would vote for them and then we could how would you select this fan council? I almost want to see it happen.
I just think you go down to the Muni parking lot and get the guy that's had the most beers, on the pregame, or just pick at random out of the dog pound, 8 guys or whatever. It's just so funny.
I'm telling you. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc talking to Dan Wismar. We're having some fun here. Hey, all right, let's segue off the financial things here and political things. What did I want to talk to you about? Hey, Buckeyes. Buckeyes got a little bit of recruiting going on. Am I right? Bringing some new people into the fold this weekend?
Yeah, they did get one commitment, a kid. They had a camp this past weekend, and most fans that follow recruiting closely are kind of fans of what we call the camp offer. The guy who might not be, all that highly touted nationally or ranked all that high, but who, especially coming from out of state, a kid like this who came in from Maryland, Tyler Green is the guy that they got a commitment from over the weekend. He's a safety, played wide receiver and safety, but he's a big kid for a safety, 6'3", 215. The kind of big, hard-hitting, enforcer back there that really the Buckeyes haven't really had that much in recent years. Came to camp, really impressed him, worked his way in camp and showed Urban Meyer and Chris Ash enough to make the kid an offer, and he committed right away. it's a nice offer. The kid will be a 4-star player. I mean, he's not a totally under the radar kind of a kid. But the other good thing about getting Tyler Green is that it gets you into DeMatha in Hyattsville, Maryland, which is a big-time school in all sports. And to get a kid from there, and this is, again, probably partially a response to Larry Johnson's influence on recruiting. He's the guy who's traditionally recruited Maryland and D.C. and Northern Virginia for Penn State. He has recruited this kid. He's been on him for a year or so, and he came to camp and got his offer. So the Buckeyes have been recruiting. They've been off to a real sluggish start. There are people around the program that are concerned about it. The bottom line is it's not a great year for kids in the state of Ohio for 2015. There's a handful of them, including a couple of big-time linebackers, Justin Hilliard and Jerome Baker out of Benedictine. Hilliard is out of Moeller, but I might be wrong about that. But anyway, they only have 4 commitments so far, and it's been tough sledding for them. They've lost a couple of kids. They had a kid, Shamar Kilby-Lane, who they thought was the linebacker in the fold that was uncommitted, but leaning the Buckeyes' way. He ended up committing to Florida State over the weekend, so it was a little bit of a kick in the teeth for the Buckeyes on that one. But the bottom line is Meyer is in on a lot of national prospects, a lot of 4- and 5-star kids that decide late in the process. The other thing to remember, the signing day is in February, about 8 months away. So
right.
It's by no means time to push the panic button. This is going to be an excellent class when it's all said and done, and people just need to chill and relax because Urban Meyer is Urban Meyer, and he's going to get about 19 or 20 big time recruits by the time it's all said and done. But Tyler Green's a good get because he's a big safety. He's 6'3", 215, and runs a 4.4. That's all really you need to know. And he's from a big-time program at DeMatha in Maryland, and that's one of the biggest athletic schools in the D.C. area. And to get your foot in the door there is another coup for the program.
And like you said, the relationship with Larry Johnson there, a big part of that. So already maybe beginning to see some benefits from that. And another Buckeye story since you and I talked last that kind of caught me by surprise the other day. Kenny Guyton, who I think you and I both, we were pretty high on Kenny G's prospects of catching on with an NFL team. And really, I thought for sure, I kind of took it as a foregone conclusion that Kenny Guyton was going to make a squad somewhere here, even if it was a practice squad. Instead, he ends up going to the Arena Football League. Talk to me about your thoughts there. Are you surprised that he didn't wait out training camps, or is he still able to do that? What are your thoughts on him going to the Arena League?
I think he probably sees this as an opportunity to get some visibility and to, there was nothing guaranteed for Kenny Guyton in an NFL camp. It's tough, I think, for any kid who really went through his college career and was never the regular starter for his college football team. It's hard to make your case to be an NFL player, let alone NFL starter, if you weren't able to be a starter in college. And granted, he played behind some good players, namely Braxton Miller, but he, great kid, but apparently, he decided to take the bird in the hand and sign with the team out there. And the team, it's the LA franchise, if I'm not mistaken.
The Kiss.
And who's the owner? Some celebrity, I can't think of who it is. I don't know if it's a musician or somebody. Anyway, the team is. They signed him. He's a little bit of a name for them, and it gives him some exposure. And these arena kids, they've been known to have an arena football player finally get a shot in the NFL, and once you get a little exposure in the Arena League, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that he'll someday land in an NFL camp. But I think he just grabbed the bird in the hand, and they were going to sign him to a contract, and he said, "Okay, let's do this," because he had been in a couple of NFL camps, Buffalo for one. He went into Buffalo for a thing, and then they didn't see fit to sign him to a contract, and so maybe he felt his it was a long shot to stick with an NFL team this year, and decided to grab what he could get.
Yeah, I mean, as you see, I mean, look at, even here in Cleveland, Brian Hoyer, he played in college. He was an undrafted free agent, and look at, even now when he finally does get a job, they draft somebody else to eventually replace him at some point, and he's already looking for the exit hatch, and he just got himself, you know what I mean? So the life of the undrafted free agent, very difficult. It's Kiss. Kiss is who owns that team. It's Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Those are the guys.
That's right. I knew there was some celebrity musician or something, or I couldn't think of who it was. They're called the L.A. Kiss, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yes. And so they, they got a guy that a lot of people know just because he was high profile at Ohio State, relatively, and he's got a paycheck and a chance to, play on a pretty big stage and they're in a big market at least, and get seen by people that might ultimately want to give him another shot.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I just was curious because since you and I talked, I saw that. I said, well, with the last camps coming up this week, I thought for sure he may wait, a couple of weeks before doing that. But like you said, bird in the hand, better than two in the bush sometimes. Speaking of camps, the Browns this week are one of 7 teams who are holding their final mandatory mini camp here, the one that everybody is supposed to be at, although it doesn't cost players very much to skip it. If a veteran wanted to not show up this weekend or this week, he could miss the whole camp, and the most he would be fined is less than $70,000. So if you're a guy who's making the kind of money that would make you want to miss camp, then there's not really a lot of consequence. But most players do show up unless they're in a contract issue or whatever. But Brown's one of 7 teams doing it now, and then everybody else will finish up theirs over the next week or two. And then they kind of go dark until you get to training camp. I think it's funny. We talk, Dan, just all of us on the show in general, about the different rules, especially with football. And it's funny looking at the list here of what separates this camp from the other camps. They're able to step it up a notch, and by step it up a notch, that means the players now can wear helmets, but no pads, no contact drills are allowed. They can hold 2-a-day practices, but only on 2 out of the 3 days, and no matter what, they cannot practice for more than 3.5 hours per day, and one of those has to be a walkthrough. It's amazing, and total for the entire 3 days, they cannot work players for more than 10 hours. It is amazing that they put like these exact time limits on practices and what they're able to do. I'm amazed that teams can get anything accomplished with all the limitations against them.
Well, you're right, and all that is, of course, meticulously negotiated by the NFLPA.
Oh, yeah.
Presumably with player safety in mind, and but what you see, and I think over the years, as they limit the contact and limit the kinds of practices that you can have, and hamstring the coaches and the teams more and more every year, that you see. I don't think it's a coincidence that you then see a drop off in fundamentals. You don't see teams that know how to tackle anymore. A lot of those kinds of things go by the wayside because you're so afraid. And the teams are complicit in this too. They don't want to see training camp injuries. They don't want to see torn Achilles and ACLs going on in June and July. But I think you really do see some fundamentals start to suffer because the teams aren't practicing as much, as hard, as seriously. There's not as much tackling. There's not as much hitting. And I think over the season you see some of those fundamentals noticeably absent as years go on.
See, I agree with you 100% about the fundamentals. I think that's one of the reasons why players don't tackle as well and so many of the other little things. But it's not just that. I take the flip side on injuries, and I know that people can show you studies that go both ways and that can back up either argument. But, man, for as many people as say less injuries in training camp, do you agree or no that I think that causes the lack of toughness, the lack of hitting, the lack of full speed in training camp for 6 or 8 weeks in a row is what softens you up for the regular season? And I think that's why players get hurt more during the season. I think injury, not just I get it's a faster game, bigger game, and that's true, and the players are bigger, but I just think that part of that kills the fundamentals, and also, I don't know, you don't have that eye of the tiger maybe as early. You're not in as good of shape physically as you would have been if you were going a little bit harder. And I think that leads to as many in-season injuries as the counter saving preseason injuries.
Yeah, Jared, that's an interesting debate, and I don't know if there's ever going to be where you can, empirically prove one way or another which it is. I think there's something to be said for the fact that the players might not be in as good a condition. As far as being toughened up, boy, that's such a subjective thing that you don't really know. I think, in my own opinion, I think the injury factors are more attributable to the fact that players are bigger and faster, and the collisions are more high speed, and there's more vicious hitting by bigger, stronger athletes. That contributes more to the fact that, say, an NFL running back's shelf life in this league is between 3 and 4 years before he's just a physical wreck, where he's getting hit so many times, so often, so hard. And I don't know what those averages are doing as if you look at them over a long period of time. Maybe the NFL running back in 1994 was the same as an NFL running back in 2014. I'm not sure about that. But, it seems to me that it's the size and speed of the athletes and the nature of the collisions, and more so than, maybe. But again, that's just an opinion. More so than, say, softer practices, fewer practices, less emphasis on fundamentals and tackling, et cetera. But it's just a feeling more so than anything that's informed by facts.
No, you're right. And I see everything that you're saying, too. It's just, I don't know, man. Just it's hard because it is a fine line to walk. And you can make either argument in either direction. I just know me, like, when I'm going, like wrestling, when I'm going every weekend, when I'm during the week, I don't know, my body's in that groove, and I tend to get banged up much less. I get banged up so much more often when I'm going part-time on a slower schedule, and I'm just, doing a show here, doing a show there. Man, then everything kills me. So I just think that when you're, and not just the conditioning, physical pounding, when you're taking it every day, your body finds that rebuild, that second and that third wind differently. I don't know, but you can't change it. You're absolutely right, because the big size and all of that matters too. Who knows? So, but I don't know, because I'm with you, because the concussions, the head injuries, they change the argument, and they do, and I understand that part of it too. But I still think guys like Paul Brown would roll over in the grave if they saw somebody hand them a piece of paper that says, "Here's what you're allowed to do." Nope, that you can't do that. You're not allowed to practice them here. You can't make them run too hard. After every lap, you've got to let them stop for water. You can only make them run 3 laps an hour. Stuff like that. I think.
And at the end of the day, everybody gets a trophy, right?
That's it.
I'm just kidding. Speaking of the size of players, one of the things, and I'm going to switch gears on you real quick here and just ask you what you thought about the Tribe's draft. It seems to me they went for youth and they went for size. If you just sort of look at some of the top, let's say the top 10 players that they took, I think 7 out of the first 11 were 18 or 17 years old. In other words, high school kids as opposed to college kids.
They took 15
they drafted
high schools.
A lot of size this year. Some 6'6", 6'5", 6'7" kids, 6'3", big guys. It seemed like I don't know if that was by design or by coincidence, but those are some of the things that struck me about what the Indians did on draft day.
You're right. They took 15 of the 42 players that they took. 15 of them were high school players here. And, I was just talking the other day, just looking at the 2 guys that they took in the first round. I was like, hey, man, I hear really good reports about both of these guys. And again, like I said on the show, I don't pretend to be I can tell you of all the prospects and all the sports, of the major sports, baseball is the one that I need the most help on, because I don't follow college baseball anywhere near as closely as I do college football or college basketball. So I'm not the guy to tell you, or even especially high school baseball. I couldn't tell you the first thing, but
and neither can I. All I do is read the scouting reports after the Indians take a player.
Exactly.
I don't profess to know much about them.
Exactly.
But
it sounds good.
You look at a couple of things, see what kind of trends there are, and you hear and you read about what the experts say. And from what I'm seeing, a lot of the experts think Cleveland had an excellent draft, and
for sure,
especially kids like this Bobby Bradley, dropped in the 3rd round. They thought could have gone a lot higher. A big, hard-hitting first baseman out of Mississippi. Some kids like that. Plus, I thought it was kind of cool that they drafted the grandson of Harmon Killebrew.
Yes.
Talk about your bloodlines. He's a pitcher from California, but Harmon Killebrew is his grandpa. So Anyway, just like what I saw there, and like reading the reaction of some of the experts that felt that they did real well.
Got us another Gomes. I mean, I'm with you, man. Looking through some of these guys myself. Very, very, very interesting. And, of course, this is different than any of the other drafts because this one takes a long time before you get a chance to see how this thing even pans out. But
exactly, come and revisit it in 5 years, and we'll have another conversation about it.
Exactly. Maybe one or two. I mean, the Indians have shown that they're catching up with everybody else as far as getting guys up faster if they're ready, one or two guys. So you may see a few of these guys zoom up a little bit faster, but it's going to be years before that. Looking through. Hey, how about Johnny Baseball, by the way? Speaking of the baseball draft, Browns fans' hearts dropped in their stomach as they heard that their quarterback had been drafted into Major League Baseball, and of course he didn't play
crazy.
baseball.
That's something that had escaped my notice throughout this whole ever since the NFL draft. The fact that the kid played baseball, and I couldn't help thinking that what we talked about last week, it was only a one-ring circus. Well, now with this, it's a two-ring circus. Okay, it has yet to. It's going to be a three-ring circus by the time August rolls around. But it just when he was drafted in baseball, it just took it from a one-ringer to a two-ring circus, and so it just keeps getting better.
And it come like a day after he does the first pitch gimmick there and gets the pictures there. So all of a sudden, I got a kick out of it. And hey, looking at the draft too, something else that may have slipped your mind. Talk a little bit of nepotism. The 998th overall selection of the draft was the son of Paul Dolan, Peter Dolan from Gilmore Academy. So there you go. And
that was interesting too. I heard Hamilton yesterday, Hammy, on the Tribe Game broadcast, talking about it, and he was just about as gracious as he could be because obviously, just a year ago they drafted his son out of Kent State, and he got a couple of at-bats in spring training with the big league club, and so I'm sure that Tom Hamilton is somewhat sympathetic to Mr. Dolan's prevailing on his team to draft his son, but and Hamilton was aware that the kid had a nice career at Gilmore Academy. I don't know what brand of baseball they play at Gilmore Academy, but anyway, that's a bone that you throw to the owner's kid, and maybe the owner never even suggested they do it. Just the general manager, knows who signs his paycheck and decided to do, a nice gesture for the owner. But that was interesting to see. And the same with Gomes. You wonder. So I heard someone speculating that maybe this was a clause in Yan Gomes' contract extension that his little brother gets picked and gets a little bit of a contract signed by the team. So who knows how that stuff plays out? You never know what's in those contracts.
Hey, Charles Morgan with an interesting thought there in the chat room, man. Cavaliers have a lot of assets in this upcoming draft. I'm just saying, Mr. Irrelevant wouldn't be against Cavs fans if it was Johnny Basketball. That's all I'm going to throw out there. Let's
right.
make it a three-sport.
You saw Johnny last night at the basketball game with a Cavs cap on.
There you go.
He was at least smart enough. He talked to Joe Hayden and said, "What should I do?" And then Joe said, "Show up at the game and wear a Cleveland baseball cap."
I think even LeBron. I think even LeBron was smart enough at this point to go, "Hey, Bron, what do I do? Don't wear the Yankees cap, bro. Just look. It caused me a lot of grief, and they loved me at the time. Listen, man, just do what you got to do, man. No, but all seriousness. And hey, man, going back to the Indians draft, taking the joke side out of it, just looking again back at those first couple of the first round picks, and I'll tell you what, a lot of good reports. And I mean, again, here another Gatorade Player of the Year that they've brought on, Clint Frazier last year, and several others the last few years. Matter of fact, what's that? Greinke, Kershaw, Porcello, just a couple of the guys that fit into that category that were pitchers as well. So interesting.
And that's Justice Sheffield? Is that who you're talking about?
Justice Sheffield. And I said, man, I could already see the marketing with his name as it is, with the Justice and the way it's spelled. Justice will be served. I mean, he is ready to be marketed if he can make it in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, now I have read in two conflicting things. I have read that he is not, and I've read that he is related to Gary Sheffield. Have you heard definitively one way or another?
No, and I was not sure about that. So I was going to kind of ask you the same thing.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out. I saw somewhere that nobody was citing anything authoritative about it. I read at first, no, he's not related, and then later on I heard that he was a nephew or something. So we'll find that out, and I'll know by Wednesday. We'll figure it out.
There we go. All right, Dan Wismar, my man. Hey, Indians, before they can even move on this trip, they got to finish things off tonight. What do you think, man? Do they make it 3 out of 4 here in Texas tonight?
I think they do, because Texas is reeling a little bit. Yeah. House has been very impressive. Some of their hitting talent is from the left side. I just think that House is going to continue to baffle people. They've never seen him before. Sometimes we seem to do the worst against guys that we're seeing for the very first time, and he's got a little bit of deception, and maybe he can pull it out. I like our chances tonight, and I want to get a split in KC, and then a couple more in Boston. We'll come home 6-4.
Absolutely, and House, I said it earlier, this is at least his one more chance to show, hey, I'm not ready to go anywhere. Just in case Zach McAllister's not ready, just in case this next start is not where they want it to be, they don't have to panic. This is a chance too. But I like what Francona said. I mentioned it earlier. He said, even if he goes now, House has played his way into our plans. And I think he should have, because I like the small sample size that we've seen. So hopefully he can go out there tonight and lock it down.
We'll be watching.
You got it. Dan Wismar, my man. We'll talk on Wednesday, and we will be 2/3 of the way through this road trip.
Okay, Jerry. Look forward to it. Talk to you then.
All right. My man, Dan Wismar. He's be back on Wednesday. He's with us every Monday and Wednesday, but if you miss him, you can catch him on theclevelandfan.com, theclevelandfan.com. We're going to take a break. When we come back, talk a little basketball, wrapping things up, the NBA Finals. LeBron bounced back. What did we say the other day? When LG was on the phone, I said, hey, in all honesty, man, he's going to bounce back in Game 2, because that's what great players do, and they did. But what a great basketball game that was last night. We'll talk about that, Cavaliers, max deal for Kyrie Irving, and so much more. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really want.
Listen to the Sports Fix
if you wanna be my lover.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. Of course, during Brown season, we're there each and every week. What a fun time it was last year. But not just that, so many more reasons for you to check out the Harry Buffalo today. The UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events. Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Indians fans, GV Art and Design has unleashed their new baseball collection. This summer, you've got to have one of the hottest baseball shirts available. Indians themes, GV Art has them covered from top to bottom. Chief Wahoo, keep the Chief, one of the hottest sellers going today. GV Artwork, knocking it out of the park, teaming up with Michael Brantley to create a custom Dr. Smooth t-shirt. Bringing back an old classic, GV Artwork, bringing out the wild thing. Give them the heater design. The Cleveland That I Glove collection continues to grow. New designs for women and so much more. GVArtwork.com, bringing it full force to the plate for baseball season this year. Whether you check them out online, GVArtwork.com, use the sales code FIX10, FIX10 to save 10% on your total purchase. Whether you go to their store in Lakewood, check them out at the Cleveland Indians team shops around Progressive Field, and so much more. GV Art and Design. It's not just a shirt, it's a statement.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. quicklane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, live here on the sportsfix.net. We hit the final segment of the show, another loaded Monday, as always. And we didn't even have John McMullen with us here on the Sports Fix today. He'll be with us a little bit later on in the week. He's on the field at Eagles OTAs up in Philadelphia, but he'll join us a little bit later on this week to talk about the NFL, to talk about the Browns and all the latest there. Looking forward to John McMullen joining us. Thanks again to my previous segment. Dan Wismar was with us for a good chunk of time today as well. Fun conversation with him and fun conversation with all of you guys. Hopefully everybody's jamming through. Look at that. We blew through 2 hours on a Monday on the Sports Fix like it's nothing, man. Bam, see? Tell your friends. Before you know it, 1 minute you're grumpy. 1 minute you're going, give me another cup of coffee. I don't even want to, my head's pounding. Bam, 2 hours later, it's almost time to go home from work. Thank you. You're welcome from the Sports Fix. Welcome back in, guys, as we head into the last segment of the show. Having some fun today, as you can tell, with the YMCA in the background. Tomorrow, real quick preview, of course, Dr. Football on Tuesdays, always in the house. Bill Checkus, a great time going to be had with him. Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com. He'll be here tomorrow as well as we talk about the wrap-up, the finale, if you will, of tonight's game and tonight's series with the Indians and the Texas Rangers as the Tribe looks to make it 3 out of 4 here. Good way to end this series and a hell of a good way to start a 10-game road trip. But either way, they're guaranteed a split, but you don't look at it that way. You look to take 3 out of 4, baby. Tonight, TJ House pitching for his current Major League life anyway, and I'm just exaggerating with that. But hey, it's his chance to say, hey, don't send me anywhere. The lefty takes the mound against Nick Martinez tonight. 8:05 is the first pitch on Sports Time Ohio, and then tomorrow we'll be talking about it with Jeff Gorman and looking ahead to Kansas City. I think earlier I said Baltimore. I don't even know what I was thinking, but Kansas City and then Boston here on this trip. But that's all in the future. Right now, we're talking about TJ House tonight, wrapping up 3 out of 4. Let's see if the Tribe can get that done. I want to switch gears, talk a little NBA hoops, you guys. And first and foremost, before I talk about Cavs stuff, let's talk about the NBA Finals, because we had fun, as a lot of people did around the country on Friday with Cramp Gate and LeBron and all of that stuff. And hey, that being what it is, I specifically remember talking to LG, Larry Glick, and he called in Friday, and he wrote an article, and I 100% concurred and said, hey, all joking aside, the great ones usually bounce back with a big one after stuff like this. And I said I expect him to have a couple in this series, and he had one of them last night. Of course, LeBron James led the Heat. What a game, though. Listen, take the LeBron thing out of the equation for a second, and just what a basketball game that was last night. Back and forth. I mean, the Spurs took the early lead. It was like a boxing match, and then the Heat came back, tied the game. LeBron, led his team, came through. But regardless, you get down to the stretch, and they pulled it out at the end. I got a point to those missed free throws. For those of you that watched the game, when Tony Parker got elbowed in the ribs, and I'll tell you, I thought he broke his rib. He took a sharp shot right in the rib cage there from, I think it was Mario Chalmers that threw the elbow. But regardless, Tony Parker missed the next 2 free throws. That was on the flagrant foul, which was big because you had 2 shots with a 2-point lead and you got the ball back. He missed both of them. Tim Duncan gets on the very next possession, gets fouled, misses the and one, and then he misses his free throws too. And that 4-point, I mean, right there, you're looking at a 6-point game instead of a 2-point game. And seeing as how Miami won by a deuce at the end, I think that was the difference maker there. But regardless, the Heat did something that's not the easiest thing to do, and that's beat the Spurs at home. They split the first two. Now this series heads down to Miami for the next 2 games of the series, and now the Spurs have to answer and do the same thing. And you know what they say, a 7-game series is not really a series until each team's won a game on the road. So now it's time to go to work for the Spurs as this thing heads back to Miami tied at 1 game apiece. But I mean, just a great basketball game last night by both teams, and I think you're going to see that last year's too. Regardless if you thought that the Spurs should have won, if you thought the Heat did win and deserved to win, however you looked at it, this is 2 teams that match up very well with each other. And you really have kind of the conundrum, the battle of the great individual star with a solid supporting cast. Although, I'll be the first one to tell you, I think this is the weakest of the Miami teams that since they've put that group together. I think last year may have been the strongest team that they had, but regardless, I think this is a weaker team from top to bottom in the way it's put together. It's really going to take the top couple of guys to win this thing this year, no doubt. But, hey, all they have to do, I always joke and say, everybody that signs with Miami except for the top 3, they have an agreement in their contract. They just have to show up for 3 games. That Miami has the option of telling you which 3 games. And I'm telling you, everybody on the roster shows up once or twice, has their one big game during the playoffs when the team needs it. It's just whatever. But seriously, I do think this is his lowest caliber team that they've taken into the NBA playoffs yet. And I still think that the Spurs win this thing in 6, but it's a good series. It's just 2 good teams going at it, and you do like to watch that, no matter if you dislike whoever. It's good basketball. If you like basketball, it's a good little matchup there. So now Game 3 switches. Speaking of 3, supposedly down to 3, the Cavaliers and their search for a head coach. Reports coming out of Cleveland. And you know, I don't even remember, but Bruce the other day asked me, who's the Tel Aviv coach? Some of these, everybody that comes to Cleveland for an interview is being reported as a head coach candidate, and some of these guys are coming in for assistant coaching interviews and stuff. It's just really misreporting. And this is, again, one of those situations where the team in Cleveland, this time being the Cavaliers, are refusing to make any comments, which is fine. That's their option. But now, you know, you get these quote-unquote beat writers that quote sources, and you just get all this misrepresentation out there. But as far as I can venture here, the 3 that they liked from the beginning, really, Vinny Del Negro kind of snuck in there to me, although I know he had connections with Griffin. But it's look at all the talk, and it all kind of circles back to the 2 guys that we talked about at the beginning, along with Vinny Del Negro being the 3rd guy. But Lionel Hollins, Alvin Gentry. When this whole thing started, I thought that they stuck out head over the rest of the guys in the competition. Not only that, but I thought that to the Cavs, they were the 2 most attractive candidates. Vinny Del Negro has worked his way into that, but supposedly those 3 are the final. And I wouldn't be surprised. None of them have met with Dan Gilbert yet. It's all been Griffin. Unless Griffin's just making the hire, I would think that there needs to be another round of interviews with Dan Gilbert. But regardless, that's the word that those are the final 3. I still think, man, Lionel Hollins, I don't know, because there's arguments for each based on their relationships within people already in the Cavs organization. But I think Alvin Gentry's got the inside track on things. To be totally honest with you, I think that Phoenix thing goes back there too deep. But they all have different connections to Griffin and different connections to various parts of the Cavs. So we'll see. No timeline on any decision or anything. But speaking of timelines, July 1st coming up down the road. Over the weekend, all kinds of stories. And what's so funny is, depends on the website you opened, you saw a headline that either said Cavs will or Cavs will not offer Kyrie Irving the max contract. Nobody can make up their mind, but everybody's got sources that guarantee them one way or the other. And the whole max contract thing, by the way, is so it's misrepresented because people act like there's one type of contract, one max contract that they could offer. There's not. There's actually a lot of variables in the type of deal that they could offer, in the raises that come with the various years. I saw one version of a max contract would be 5 years for $90 million, but another version of the same max contract actually equals 5 years and $110 million. And then don't forget, you got the not the Super 2, but it's basically like that, the Derrick Rose deal, where you can escalate the contract if you become, what is it, an all-star starter or all-star MVP twice within your first contract. There's that escalator that's kind of like the Super 2 thing, where you've played above in baseball, the Super 2, kind of where you've played above your level, and there's that super exception, and I think that takes it a little bit higher. But there's different types of max contracts. Terry Pluto's reporting, of course, that the Cavs are, other people that they aren't. The meeting supposedly already being set up. We'll see. I do think that the Cavs will gauge his interest, will make an offer, but I don't know that it's going to be the offer that everybody thinks. And who knows? Don't forget. I mean, see, this is the one, though, and it would be precedent-setting if Kyrie Irving turns that contract down, assuming that they offer it to him, because this is the first one. The second one's different. Remember, even LeBron, the second one was when he went with the shorter contract, but the first one is almost foregone because you are walking away from the only first real guaranteed real money, and not that the rest of it was fake money, but the first guaranteed real money of your career. And nobody's ever done it. So Kyrie Irving would definitely be setting a precedent by walking away from that. And even walking away, Cavaliers would still own him for the next couple of seasons because he would become a restricted free agent next year. But that simply means that the Cavs could match any contract offer out there. So it would be another year on top of that. So even if things went poorly, Cavaliers have 2 years to deal with Kyrie Irving, 2 years to make a deal, to make a trade, to make whatever. So it does not all be all end all on July 1st. But who knows if they'll even have a coach by that time. It'll be interesting to see. As the Cavaliers continue to start the process of putting this. I don't know what's going to come first, if it's going to be the draft, if it's going to be a coach. You got to think it would be a coach, although the Cavaliers have said that they do not have to have a coach to do the draft. So who knows? And then, you know what, real quick, my last comment about the Cavs, I know we're getting ready to run out of time, is the people hitting me up with the Kevin Love thing already. Kevin Love said he don't want to come to Cleveland. He's refusing to come to Cleveland, doesn't want anything to do with the trade. I have seen entire articles written about that. Do you know where this all came from? You guys do know that none of this came from Kevin Love. And I'm not saying he does or doesn't want to come to Cleveland. But what I'm saying is, do you guys know that this whole weekend, the big buzz about Kevin Love refused, I saw my Twitter timeline blaze up. Well, we didn't want Kevin Love anyway. You know, it all came from one tweet from an NBA, it was somebody at ESPN. I think it was the lady. Ramona Shelburne maybe, or I don't know. But I can't remember it because I don't have it in front of me. It was one tweet over the weekend that said, Cavaliers have expressed a trade offer to the Timberwolves, but it's believed that Kevin Love is not interested in going to Cleveland. One tweet that said it's believed. It didn't even say, I talked to Kevin Love and he's not interested in going to Cleveland. But yet that one little obscure tweet turned into a weekend-long news story about how Kevin Love has no interest in playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That just goes to show you about what the majority of the media reports you see are truly worth. That's why I like getting to do this, because at least we get to talk about it. We get to separate fact from fiction and kind of keep it real here, man. But I'm just saying, because I like to root back to the source of a story, and that is the source. Because I kept seeing all weekend, reports about this Kevin Love thing, and I read a giant article about it. So I said I wanted to trace it back, and I traced it back. And sure enough, it all came from one tweet that insinuated that it's believed that Kevin Love is not interested in Cleveland, and that became Kevin Love not interested to refuse trade to Cleveland. I love it, man. And listen, again, I'm not saying the cat wants to come to Cleveland or doesn't. I've never talked to Kevin Love in my life. Well, I've interviewed him after games, but I mean, I've never one-on-one talked to Kevin Love in my life. So I could not tell you what he wants to do. All I can tell you is that Kevin Love never came out and said he wants to or doesn't want to go anywhere. And it would be tampering if he did, by the way, because he is still under contract. So keep that in mind, too, when people make these reports. Speaking of tampering, real quick, this Varejao story that's come out, I don't know if you guys have heard this over the last couple of days, but Andy Varejao went on a Brazilian TV show, and he may have gotten himself and the Cavaliers in a little bit of beef here because he basically came out. It was an NBA Finals preview show, and he basically came straight out and said that he talked to LeBron last time LeBron was in Cleveland about whether he would come back to Cleveland, and LeBron told him that they will talk about it later. I'm guessing that that's too vague, not to get them in anything, but that's technically tampering. I mean, it's the same thing that people, talked about when LeBron and Wade and them put their plans together to go down there. You cannot talk to any player. I mean, I get players as friends can do whatever they want, but you cannot do that. That could be seen as recruit. I mean, let's just say if LeBron was to leave Miami for Cleveland, which we all know is not going to happen. If it was, you can bet your ass that Pat Riley would be using that statement right there as accusing the Cavaliers of tampering, and there would most definitely be a league investigation. You cannot talk about guys that are under contract to other teams. So whatever, but a lot of people talking about that as well too. Hey guys, we are at the end of it, man. Great show, you guys. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll carry this stuff over tomorrow. Hit us up on Facebook and on Twitter. Let me know what you thought of today's show. That is very important, not only to me, but to the growth of what we do. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like. Tell me what you think each and every day. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email me, TheSportsFix@AOL.com, and tell me, Lamont, you big dummy, or hey, I love what you're doing, or anything in between. Hit me up and let me know, you guys. Meanwhile, we're gonna call it a day. We're gonna watch the Indians tonight. Go Tribe, TJ House, and we're gonna be here tomorrow with Jeff Gorman and Dr. Football and you, baby. Same bat time, same bat channel, live right here on the Sports Fix. So have fun tonight and come back tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow, Cleveland. We love you. Right here on the Sports Fix.
Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.